Welcome to an early edition of TFL's Capital Connection. And again with me, Danny Carroll to my far right, Chuck Hurley in the middle of us, trying to make this thing work and happen. We're here early for a purpose. What a day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. It's celebration time. And we don't show the Des Moines Register all that often here at the Family Leader, but take a look at this. That Iowa passes what they say the strictest abortion ban in the country. I would say the most pro-life legislation in the country, legislation that honors life in the country. Danny and Chuck, I know you guys are elated. I know our whole team is elated. I'm sure these people that are watching this today are just thrilled with the good news. We were talking just before we went on air here. You know, Wilberforce persevered for 44 years. And since Roe v. Wade, it's been 45 years. And I know many, including you two, have been praying that long that we would find a way, God would use us in a special way to overturn this awful legislation. First of all, I just want to get some raw feeling. Danny, why don't you start? You know, when you saw this pass, give me the feeling that you experienced.
I was tired, Bob. It was 2:22 in the morning.
Tired but inspired, right?
Wide awake.
Yeah.
Wide awake. And I don't know. It's a mixed feeling of satisfaction, encouragement, thanksgiving to God for blessing us with the resources, the team effort, and godly, committed legislators who have been slaving over this legislation since the first week of session. To see their hopes and aspirations fulfilled, for many of them, Bob, that's why they ran for office.
Exactly.
They will tell you this. This is why I am here, to protect innocent life. They get it. They know how important it is. And my heart is warm on behalf of those legislators who have knocked on thousands of doors, often in 100-degree temperatures through the summer, raising money, leaving their families at home, birthdays, anniversaries, postponing vacations, you name it. For them, I'm so grateful that they have been able to see that kind of a headline.
Well, summer campaigning is definitely hot, but this got really heated in the legislature where they had to withstand the heat. Chuck, you've been here for a long time at the Capitol. You talk about you and your wife going up to the Capitol and praying at the Capitol that God's Spirit would just fill that place and hover over that place and the decisions and to protect and preserve life. How do you feel this many years into it to see what happened Wednesday morning at 2:22, as Danny said?
Bob, my greatest hero in life is Jesus. My second greatest hero is William Wilberforce. And I saw a movie about him 20-some years ago and literally wept watching what he went through and why he went through it, and thought, I should be half the man that William Wilberforce was. And it's just very gratifying to know that it's possible if you commit your way to the Lord, you surround yourself with other believers and highly competent people and people with backbone, that great things like the abolition of slavery can happen. I believe a great thing is happening in our lifetimes, and that is the sanctity of every human life is now on the front page, even of secular newspapers.
Well, praise the Lord, and I think you bring Wilberforce into it. Wilberforce is very clear. You need to lead with the gospel. You need to bring light into darkness. And it needs to be about cultural transformation, winning hearts and minds. And we're seeing that happen in this culture because we're winning hearts and minds. I mean, we're praying for revival. I think what this shows is a sign of revival.
Exactly.
a sign of revival, and where Iowa can lead the way in the country. And guys, it wasn't that long ago. Matter of fact, Darla was reminding me on a car ride after this passed. She said, you know, wasn't that long ago, we were wondering if this come out of the Senate committee. And then it came out of the Senate committee, and we were wondering, what's going to happen on the Senate floor? Will it actually get debated? Will it be advanced? And then 30-20, it gets advanced. And then went to the House, and there's so much discouragement talk about, well, the House isn't going to do anything with this. It's going to die there. And through constant prayer and constant effort and constant action and sacrifices made, the House comes and they approve it as well. So walk us through that journey a little bit behind the curtains about what's going, I mean, what did you see happen as we now culminate this? Danny, what did you see take place?
Well, it really began in the Senate, and well, probably, Bob, we probably have to go back to last year in the 20-week bill. A lot of our viewers may not realize, but there was a rather strong push to consider a heartbeat bill last year, actually in the House. And there was an amendment in a committee right before one of the funnels. I don't know, maybe it was the second funnel.
Second funnel.
And it kind of fizzled. We don't really even know today why, but probably they just didn't have the votes. But that kind of planted the seed. Then they passed the 20-week bill. And then this year we were behind the Senate the first week of the session, and Senator Brad Zahn came out to me and Nathan from our office, and he said, I've got the votes for a heartbeat bill. I said, committee or on the floor? Both. I said, seriously? Yep, I've got it. We're doing it. That, and I you know, we hear a lot of legislators say a lot of things, and they say a lot of rosy things in the first week of January.
Sure, glass half full.
I say, okay, Senator, we'll take your word at that. And even then, though, Bob, it was, I have to confess, it was with some mixed emotion, because I was there to talk to him about life at conception.
You bet.
Because we know, at the family leader, the gold standard is life begins at the moment of conception.
And that's what we're working towards.
And people have known that.
Yeah.
They've known that for decades. This is not new science. Yeah. You can ask my mother-in-law. She can tell you, okay? But so it was with a little bit of mixed emotion, because going with this represents a compromise from that gold standard. But it moves us in that direction. And so we said to Senator, okay, we're on board, and we'll support you.
You know, taking that, Danny, about, you know, our gold standard is life at conception, and you're getting secular universities saying it is life at conception. Harvard University saying research is clear, this is life at conception. So we're moving that way. Before we get into some other parts of the bill, Chuck, I want to talk a little bit, as Danny said, let's go back a year ago. Let's go back a year ago. Putting together this coalition of pro-life leaders, the unity in the pro-life community, I just got to believe that was so important to advance us to where we're at today.
It was so important, both temporally or physically or with the legislators, to see that we were unified and they couldn't play us off of each other and fracture and lose the bill. But it was also important spiritually. One of our best friends in the entire legislature, Sandy Salmon, came up to our coalition of pro-life leaders after the bill passed in the House, and she said she believes the unity that was displayed in the pro-life community was a spiritual breakthrough and gave momentum, gave a sense of optimism, and that carried the day. The other thing she said, very, very important, she said when the heartbeat bill this session was about to be shelved in the House and the Senate's efforts go for naught, she said 67,000 emails came in, and that turned the tide in the House of Representatives. That took it off of the shelf and put it in play. And we also have to give great kudos not only to our emailers, to our prayer warriors who have been there for 27 years praying for this day, but also to the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader in the House. Once they realized this was a live round, they went to work. And they worked and they worked and they worked. And they got a compromise. We hate those exceptions. But they got a bill that perhaps will save thousands of lives per year in Iowa. And they worked every angle they could work to get a heartbeat bill passed.
So as we're celebrating here, I want to make sure it's not lost that you need to celebrate. Because those 67,000 emails that he just talked about, that was you. That was you guys contacting those legislators where they were begging us to shut it down. But they heard your voice. That's key. And so, yes, we congratulate Speaker Uppmeyer. We congratulate Majority Leader Hagenow. But it was also a core of senators who passed this bill. And so we can't let, President Whitver, as well as a solid core of senators who said, we're not going home. So it's senators like Bertrand, Feenstra, Guth, Chapman, Carlin, and you can't forget Amy Sinclair and others. But they're saying, we're not going home until this is debated. And so to have this pass, it took everybody coming together. What a spirit of unity. So let me ask the next question, because as we're celebrating, and the coach in me says, guys, we're still on the floor. We haven't won the game yet. Where do we go from here? What's the tangible next step? And then what's the next steps? Danny, what do you see?
Well, obviously, Bob, we all expect this law to be challenged in court, and probably rather soon. And so we need to be continuing to pray that God will work in that judicial system and give it a favorable review. And as we're taping this, the governor hasn't signed the bill yet.
Right.
So we anticipate that to happen very soon. The other thing that we need to do is we need to say thank you. You know, as you were talking, I was sitting here thinking about the parable of the 10, and only one came back and said thank you. We're not there 10 healed, where are the other 9? Right. Just as many emails that went in encouraging the consideration of the bill, we'd like to see that many emails go in saying thank you. It's so important. We all understand gratitude. Everybody likes to be thanked and show our appreciation because, as we've observed, this is a major win in the battle, or in the war. This is a major battle victory, but it's not final victory. And so we need to continue to build on that.
Regarding saying thank you, go to thefamilyleader.com. We will have something up on the website. It'll be prominent about how you can thank these legislators. Not only thank the legislators, but encourage them to stay strong as well, because they're going to come under intense heat right now. So we will put that vehicle up on our website. We'll make sure you have access to it. But email them your thanks, encourage them to stay strong. Don't forget about Governor Reynolds in this process. As Danny just mentioned, she has not signed this bill yet. We fully anticipate her to sign it, but keep praying that she will sign it. But then you need to thank her too. And you need to encourage her to stay strong. Lift up her arms. Chuck, with an assumptive close that Governor Reynolds is going to sign the bill. Danny's talking about going to court. We know that's where this is going. If the court upheld it, we save a couple thousand babies a year just in Iowa. But this could also be a vehicle to overturn Roe v. Wade. You're the lawyer on the team. Don't bill us for this. But what happens now in regarding to bringing, if this goes to court, what do we do now?
Well, in regard to our viewers, Bob, I would ask you to do a couple things. One is to pray. There's a group at the Capitol who have been specifically praying for the United States and the Iowa Supreme Courts. This bill likely will end up in front of one or both. And Jesus said if we have the faith the size of a mustard seed, we can say to that mountain, be removed, and it'll be removed. So we're praying specifically, night and day, that the mountain of pro-abortion jurisprudence, or I like to shorten that to the mountain of death or demise for millions of unborn babies, that mountain would be removed. And what that means is some new judges. Either the judges who are sitting there get a new heart and a new mind on life, or be replaced with judges who have a good constitutional viewpoint on what our purpose of government is. Our purpose for government is to protect life, not to allow life to be taken. So prayers first. The second thing is stay with us. Join the effort. We are working diligently with legal groups around the country to try to give this bill the best possible defense and chance in court. That's going to take a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of prayer.
You know, when you talk about, we want you to continue to pray, there's no doubt about that. We want you to join this movement, encourage your friends, your family, your church, your Christmas card list. Join this movement now in prayer, also in giving. And the reason I say in giving is you're exactly right. This thing's going to go to court. It's going to be an expensive battle. We're going to be expected to participate and to play in that. But also these legislators are up for re-election. They took one for the team. They stood in the gap. They did what we asked them to do. We're going to have to come around these pro-life champions because they're going to be under intense scrutiny. And so that's where we say join this movement, get tangibly involved at this time. Let me address just real briefly kind of the elephant in the room, because you've heard Danny mention a little bit, Chuck mention a little bit, and that's these exceptions. With the heartbeat bill came the exceptions of, except for in the case of incest, rape, and fetal abnormality. The one thing all three of those have in common is a heartbeat. So the family leader does not support those exceptions. But this bill advances the pro-life cause way down the field and gets it in front of court. Our goal, as Danny said earlier, our gold standard is life at conception. So we are not done yet. This is not a time to celebrate and say, okay, we're done. This is a time to double down, and this would be a great time to get your friends involved, because everybody likes to be part of a winning team. And this is part of a winning team. And when you think about a team, and I'm just going to say this from my position as president here, you see Danny and Chuck here, and these guys deserve a lot of kudos for being at that Capitol day in, day out, till the wee hours of the morning to make sure that we're there being represented. But it's also Glenn Cornell in our production department, and Drew Zahn in our communications department, and it's Nathan and Dave in the database area. It's Daniel and Denise and Greg and their team with the Church Ambassador Network. It's Ashley and Darla and Kathy Van Solen who are leading and lifting this up in prayer. It's you who have invested in this cause and volunteered in this cause and done all their things that need to be done. This has been a team effort. So when we know God loves unity, and this is an example of that. It's also an example that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. So when the laborers come together, it's easier to take ground in the harvest. So we thank you. Now pay attention. We're going to end here with this week's early TFL connection. But if the governor were to sign, stay tuned, because we're coming right back and we're going to let you in on all that as well. So this is a time to high five. I know Chuck loves to do it. High five. It's also time to say thank you, thank you, thank you first to God, but also make sure you thank those legislators and all those who participate in this effort. Looking forward to seeing you next time with more good news from TFL's Capitol Connection.